Hola, soy la profesora Clark, and today we're going to have a little fun with infinitive verbs. To begin, infinitives in Spanish are unassigned actions that, when translated into English, always start with the word to. The infinitive is very versatile because you can combine it with conjugated verbs and verb phrases to say a variety of statements and expressions in Spanish. These expressions are called plus infinitive expressions. So to have a look at the grammar of a basic plus infinitive expression, I'm going to direct you to this chart. The first thing we're going to see in the grammar is that a plus infinitive expression usually begins with an auxiliary verb phrase, okay? And then it's followed by a main verb, and those two together equal an action in the future. So this is the basic grammar. So what is the function of the auxiliary verb? Well, if we look at the red, the auxiliary verb, one characteristic is that it's conjugated, and another characteristic is that it indicates who is performing the action. Okay? Followed up by the main verb. The main verb is in the infinitive verb form, and it describes what the action in the future is going to be. When we combine the two, red and blue, we get purple in the future action, which is what we mean to express. So an example below would be something we've probably seen before, which is using the verb tener and the phrasing with the conjunction que, tener que, together, and that would form our auxiliary verb phrase. And if we add that to an infinitive, an action verb, we will get the connotation that we have to do something in the future. So here is our example. ¿Qué tienes que hacer? Again, I'm asking, what do you have to do? Now, this word hacer, this verb hacer, means to do in Spanish, but it also indicates an open-ended question. So, in essence, when we answer, we can put any action verb in there that would express an obligation. And in this case, I've suggested estudiar. So you would answer, tengo que estudiar. I have to study. But you could actually use any infinitive verb. Tengo que cantar. Tengo que leer. Tengo que hacer la tarea. Remember, if you want to use the verb hacer in your answer, it's going to have to be attached to an activity or an idiomatic expression that uses hacer. And in this case, I used hacer la tarea. So you can ask the question, ¿Qué tienes que hacer? Tengo que hacer la tarea. There's other expressions that are a little more simplified. We can use the verb necesitar as our auxiliary verb, plus any action infinitive to express a need to do something. So in this case, all I'm doing is recycling the basic question from before, and I'm asking, instead of ¿Qué tienes que hacer?, I'm asking, ¿Qué necesitas hacer? That changes our question just a bit, because something that you have to do may be a little different than something that you need to do. But your answer is going to follow the basic grammar. Necesito estudiar. I need to study. And again, if we follow the color-coded grammar, our auxiliary verb phrase is in red. Okay? You see that it is conjugated, and it tells me who is doing the action, or in this case, in the question, it's who is being addressed. So, ¿Qué necesitas hacer? I'm asking tú. And necesito estudiar, I'm answering for yo. So again, how to use these expressions is simple. The auxiliary verb is the first verb, and it's in red for your color coding following along. And the phrase, the infinitive follows. The infinitive does not change. It stays in the infinitive form. So if you have any infinitive, any of the ones from the chapter, comer, leer, vivir, estudiar. Any of those infinitive forms can fit into this grammar. Below are other verbs and verb phrases that function in the same way. You only need to know how to conjugate the auxiliary verb. And together with a list of infinitive verbs, you can make a variety of sentences. So following the same color-coded grammar, we have auxiliary verb desear, which means to desire, and it's very much a cognate. And your question could be, ¿qué deseas hacer? Open-ended. Deseo estudiar. How about quedar? Quedar is to agree to do something. Quedar en. ¿Qué quedas en hacer? Quedo en estudiar. Another one, tratar de, which means to try to do something. ¿Qué tratas de hacer? Trato de estudiar. And the last one here with the regular verbs are going to be deber. ¿Qué debes hacer? And you can see that debes turns into a should in the English translation. And when we say ¿qué debes hacer? What should you do? I should study. Debo estudiar. Now, I've used the same infinitive in blue in all of my answers. It's up to you to change the infinitive and simply plug in whatever infinitive would be appropriate for what you would like to express. Additionally, there are more complex verb phrases that function in the same or similar ways as the simple plus infinitives. Below are a few examples. Just be sure to follow the color-coded grammar. We can use a plus infinitive to express actually a recent past action. So in this case, it's the same grammar as above, but instead of expressing a near future action, it's going to express a near past, a recent past. And it's going to say, ¿Qué acabas de hacer? Acabo de estudiar. And what you mean to say is that I just got done studying. Another thing that you're going to need to know for this particular chapter is using gustar in a plus infinitive form. So really, I just need for you to memorize this grammar. ¿Qué te gusta hacer? Me gusta estudiar. In this case, you're saying I like to study, but it actually is saying studying is pleasing to me. We're not going to talk too much about this at this point because gustar is a lot more nuanced and complex. But since Chapter 2 actually mentions this grammar, I would like for you just to memorize this, and we will return to a more in-depth explanation later. Another activity that you can use, another item that you can use is hay que. And again, hay que hacer, ¿qué hay que hacer? Hay que estudiar. What should be done? One must study. We must study. And just remember that I only has one form and no other conjugations are needed to be considered. So I put it in orange because it's not quite a red verb that needs to be conjugated. I just stays I, and que will just stay que, and you can put any infinitive to express something that must be done or should be done in general, but not necessarily directed to a specific person to perform or to be expected to be done. So in essence, this is how plus infinitives work. Just remember your auxiliary verb phrase is going to answer who, and your main verb is going to answer what. And when we put them together, we're either going to get a future action in this top chart, or right here, we're going to get a recent past action. Right here, we are going to get an activity that you like to do. And then here we can express a general obligation. Hopefully, this little handout will be helpful to you. And as usual, gracias and buena suerte. Nos vemos en clase. Thank you.